Welcome to DBC number 6. Today we're starting with a new book, which is Solution-Focused Brief Therapy. Its Effective Use in Agency Settings by Teri, Pichot, and Yvonne, Dolan. So far it's been a really great book. Today we're just going to start with the first chapter, which is the basics of Solution-Focused Brief Therapy. The first distinction that they bring up right away is that there are the way that the authors see it, there are two types of therapy or ways of operating. The first is problem solving, and the second is solution building. And from the outside, it might seem like those are two ways of saying the exact same thing, but the way that they break it down, there's really a fundamental difference, and that is the direction from which we proceed. In the first one, in problem solving, which is kind of a traditional way of doing therapy, we begin with a problem and we start where we are. Okay, well, you have this problem, tell me about it. And we get all these details about what the problem is, and then the experts come in to look at what the causes or sources of the problem might be, and there's all this and then a prescription is made, and then we have a solution. For solution building, we actually start at the end. We start not where we are, but where the client wants to be, where they would ideally want to be. And then you work backwards, and using the client's own motivations and previous successes to get to that solution. So that's the big distinction that I'm guessing is going to continue on through the rest of the book. The next thing is there are three types of agencies, because this book, again, is for agency settings. The first type of agency is one that will use solution-focused or solution-building interventions within a problem-solving setting of a session. Second type, they use solution-focused interventions and philosophy within the session. So the session, we could say, would be entirely solution building or solution focused, but the outside of the session, the agency operates in a way that is still problem solving focused. And then the third type of agency is one that has a thorough solution building and focused inside and outside of sessions. And then the idea there is that the ideas from solution focused brief therapy are not just for therapy, but they can be used in working with any problems or solutions in anything inside and outside of session. So those are the three types of agencies. And at the end of the first chapter, there are kind of we get down to the nuts of the basics of solution-focused brief therapy. There's 5 types of questions that are going to be used throughout. They'll be expanded upon in the book and throughout the sessions. So the first one is the miracle question, which is probably what solution-focused brief therapy is most well known for. So there's a miracle question, there are exception questions, scaling questions, difference questions, and relationship questions. We'll talk about all those real quick, and then that'll be the end of the video. So the miracle question is this idea that someone comes in with a problem that let's say that they have anger issues and they're always blowing up at their families and their relatives and their coworkers, and they can't control their anger they feel. The miracle question would sound something like, if it's okay if I were to ask a kind of a strange question of you, I want to know what you would think would happen. Let's say tonight you were to go home and you were to go to bed, you fall asleep, and the entire house is quiet. And at some point, while you're sleeping, a miracle occurs. And it solves all of your anger issues, such that everything you could ever want for your anger and the way you relate to people would be 100% improved to the best it could possibly be. However, you're asleep, so you don't know the miracle happened. So what would happen in the morning when you woke up that would let you know that this miracle had happened? That's a miracle question. And then as a therapist, you want to listen and take in as much vivid detail and to elicit that detail from the client. You're making them, with the miracle question, they are imagining the victory. And then you can move on from that to more things. That's the basic miracle question. An exception question is the idea of that someone is, in the case of anger, no one is angry 100% of the time. So the person already has success and they're already winning in certain aspects of their life when they're not angry. And to get into the details of those as already, and reframing those as past successes and current successes. Scaling questions, we've covered this with other books before, but this is the idea of establishing from, let's say, 0 to 10 or 1 to 10. Let's say that you want to work on your anger, and the key takeaway that they brought up so far that has been different was that a 10 should always be the ideal state. And then a 1 or a 0 should always be the worst state. So there's this idea that we're working up to the best. So if it were something about anger, such that a 10 would be that you don't even feel anger at all and you're totally compassionate and you act in a great way with everyone that you interact with. And a 1 would be that you are fully belligerent with wherever, So this idea of orienting a 10 is always what is best, has been unique. So it's scaling differences. They always want to ask for what would be different. So this can be incorporated into the miracle question. It could also be a difference question as we're exploring. Would be this idea of, well, what would be different when you first woke up in the morning or when you first interacted with your children or your spouse in the morning? What difference would you notice? And then relationship questions is a really cool turn, which can be taken into with the scaling, with exceptions, with miracles, with difference. So relationship questions would sound like, let's say this miracle happened. What differences would your spouse notice? Or what would they tell us was different? What would they notice is different? And then this is a really cool one because it gets the clients to imagine the situation being different through the eyes of someone that is important to them. Really cool. So then you can use it for scaling as well. So where would your spouse put your anger from a 1 to a 10, where 10 is the best possible, where there's no anger in you at all and it wouldn't even come up, and 1 or a 0 would be like that you're hostile and belligerent to them. Where would they put you? And then there's this idea that maybe they have a different number. And then the empowering question to the client would be, what do they not know about you? What do they not see in you that is resulting in this gap? Really cool. So we're going to talk more about these 5 questions as the book progresses, but for now they are miracle question, exception questions, scaling, questions about difference, and questions about relationships. And again, they overlap with each other as well. One last thing at the end of the chapter, the first chapter, was the idea of compliments. That compliments should be given on process. So when something good happens, to express like authentic surprise and congratulations at that. And then step 2, how did you do that? So you had the success, and what was happening with you? How did that work out? What made that happen? So that's the first chapter of Solution Focused Brief Therapy. Really cool takeaways already. And we will see you next time with the second chapter. Thanks for watching.